Hi guys, welcome back to ladensercrochets. If you're new to the channel, you're welcome. Kindly subscribe and join the family. My name is Liz. In this video, I'll be bringing you a tutorial on how to make this skirt. It's a very simple skirt. The main stitch is the double crochet stitch, and it has a ruffle detail at the bottom part, as you can see. And I hope that you're going to enjoy it. I used a medium weight yarn, butterfly medium weight yarn, and I used a total of 4 balls. Each of the balls is 100 grams, so grab your materials and let's get into the tutorial. I'll be using these yarns for my project. A pack comes with 5 balls. It's called butterfly yarn and it's 100% acrylic. I got this yarn as a gift from Spinners and Spinners. This is a yarn production company in Nairobi, Ruiru, Kenya. And I totally love how it feels on my hands. For those who know butterfly yarn, you know it usually came in thin yarn, but this one is medium weight. Like you could only get thin and chunky yarn, but they finally have a medium weight yarn, and I'm so excited to be trying it out. You'll need a 2.5mm crochet hook. The smaller the hook, the better. A pair of scissors, a darning needle for weaving the ends, a tape measure, and stitch markers. Get your yarn and the hook, and we're going to begin with a slip knot. Once we get the slip knot, we're going to chain 10. The chain 10 is standard for everybody. We are making a waistband, so I'm going ahead to chain 10. Once you get your 10 chains, we're going to block off the last chain, that is the 10th chain, and chain one more. Go into that 10th chain, insert your hook and pull up a loop to get 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over, pull through the 2 loops to complete a single crochet. Insert the hook into the next chain and pull up a loop. Get 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through the 2 to complete the second single crochet. Into the 3rd chain, we place a single crochet into the 4th chain, a single crochet into the 5th chain, and we're going to place 1 single crochet into every chain till we get to the end. And this is our row 1. At the end of row 1, we should have 10 single crochets. I'm placing my last single crochet into that very last chain, which is my 10th single crochet, and I'm done with row 1. So chain 1 and turn to begin row 2. In row 2, we would normally work in these stitches, but that's not where we're going to work. We're going to work in the back loop only. So insert your hook into the back loop and pull up a loop, and then complete a single crochet. Insert your hook into the next back loop and do a single crochet. Do a single crochet into the 3rd back loop. So you're going into that back loop and inserting the hook, pulling up a loop, and yarning over and pulling through the 2 loops. So go on, place 1 single crochet into each of the back loops. At the end of row 2, we should still have 10 single crochets. I'm in the last back loop, and right there I'm going to do my last single crochet, and I have a total of 10 single crochets in row 2. So then we chain 1 and turn to begin row 3, and we're going to work row 3 just like we've done row 2. In the back loop of the first stitch, do a single crochet in the back loop of the second stitch, a single crochet in the back loop of the 3rd stitch, and then we place 1 single crochet into each of the back loops. Make sure that at the end of row 3, you have a total of 10 single crochets. Chain 1 and turn to begin row 4. Again, row 4 is worked the same way. So basically we are repeating row 2, and we want to repeat row 2 until we get a waistband that fits. So like for example, I'm working a waist of 30 inches and I'm going to repeat these rows until I get a band whose length is 30 inches when slightly stretched. So let me go on, work the rows in the back loops. Each of the rows should have 10 single crochets. Then I'll be back and I'll let you know how many rows I'll have done to get me to my 30 inches. I have my waistband ready and I've done a total of 90 rows to get me to 30 inches when my band is slightly stretched. So I'm just going to fold these into two. Then I'll get the measuring tape and I'll show you how to take this measurement. So from one end to the next without stretching, I'm at 11 inches, which is 22 when multiplied by 2. That is without stretching. And I want to go all the way to 15 because my waistband is 30 inches. So when I give this a big stretch, it will get me to 17 inches, which is 34. You need that allowance. You don't want to get something that exactly fits your waist because it might be too hard to force it in through your head. So if you're working a waist of 28, I would advise that when it stretches out completely, it goes up to 30 or 32. And now we're going to chain one and turn, and we want to join the two ends to complete the round. Now when you join in the two ends, we're going to work in both loops. So right here in the first stitch on this side and the first stitch on the other edge, we pull up a loop and complete a slip stitch. So we are pulling the loop through all the loops that are on the hook. Insert the hook into the next stitch, the second one, and the second stitch on the other side, working in the both loops, and do a slip stitch into the third stitch and the third stitch on the other side, complete a slip stitch. The fourth stitch and the fourth stitch on the other side, we grab a loop and do a slip stitch, and we're going to do a total of 10 slip stitches. I'm in the last stitch, so I'm going to do that last slip stitch to join the last two stitches, and our waistband is ready. This is the wrong side, so I'm going to chain 2 and turn to the other side. So start by chaining 2, and the chain 2 acts as a double crochet. Chain 2 and turn, and then we're going to place 1 double crochet into each of the rows. So I have a total of 90 rows, and therefore I should have a total of 90 double crochets when I go all the way around the waistband, sorry, not the wristband, but the waistband. So I'll go into the first row and place a double crochet, yarn over into the second row, work a double crochet, into the third row, work a double crochet. I believe you can clearly see where we are placing the stitches. So just watch and learn. Place a double crochet into each of those rows. So if you've started with 100 rows, by the end of row 1, you should have 100 double crochets. If you've started with 90 rows, you should have 90 double crochets like me. If you started with 80 or 85, just make sure that the number of rows that you have in your waistband should be the same number of stitches as the ones that you're going to have in your first row after joining the band. So I'll just keep going to the end of that round. I'm coming to the end of the row, and I'll just place my last double crochet in the last row. Then I'm going to do a slip stitch on top of the chain 2 that I did at the beginning. Then I'll chain 2 and turn to begin row 2. So we're going to start increasing from row 2 in order to get to our hip measurements. And to do that, I hold my work like this. So I get the point where the last stitch is, and I just straighten my work to get the exact middle of my work. So that means on the bottom I should have 45 stitches and 45 stitches on the top. Then I'm going to mark that middle stitch. You can count the stitches or you can hold your work the way I'm doing. Then I bring those two stitches together, the marked stitch and the first stitch right there. I bring them together. Then I'm going to get 2 stitch markers and I'm going to mark the edges where we're going to work the increases. So just make sure that your work is well aligned and get 2 stitch markers, mark on one of the side. Then after marking on this side, we're going to get another stitch marker and then we're going to mark onto the other side. You have to make sure that you're aligning your work well so that you're going to get the exact middle and the points where you're going to increase. So you don't need that first stitch marker anymore. Now we're going to start working row 2. I had already chained 2, so I'll just turn to begin row 2. So this is how I'm supposed to turn. My yarn seems to be a bit twisted, so I'm just untwisting it, making sure that I'm holding it correctly. Then after that, we're going to start in the second stitch. So we won't work into the chain 2 stitch. We're going to work in the second stitch, the stitch after, that one, the second stitch. Place a double crochet there, then a double crochet into the next stitch, a double crochet into the next, a double crochet into the next stitch. So just place 1 double crochet into each of the stitches until you get to a stitch before the stitch marker. We get to the stitch marker and we're going to take it out from that stitch, and then we're going to increase in that stitch. We're going to place 3 double crochets into the same stitch. So 1, 2 and 3. Now get the stitch marker and mark the second stitch at that point of increase, or the stitch that is in the middle. After that, we're going to place just 1 double crochet into every stitch till we get to the second stitch marker. So keep working 1 double crochet all the way, and I'll meet you once I get to the second stitch marker. Once we get to that second stitch marker, we'll just take it out, and into that stitch place 3 double crochets. So 1, 2 and the third stitch in the same stitch. Get the stitch marker and mark the second stitch at that point of increase. Then after this, we're going to continue to the end with 1 double crochet into every stitch, and I'll meet you at the end. We're going to get into the last stitch right there and place the last double crochet there. Then to complete row 2, slip stitch on top of the chain 2 at the beginning. So we're done with row 2, chain 2 and turn to begin row 3. We're going to begin row 3 in the second stitch. Then we're going to work our last stitch in that stitch where the chain 2 is as we come to the end. Now place 1 double crochet into every stitch, and since we've increased in row 2, row 3 will be a row with no increase, and that means each of the stitches will get just 1 double crochet. When we get to the stitch marker, we're going to take it out, place a double crochet into the stitch marker, then put back the stitch marker, because we need to know where to increase in row 4. So we're going to alternate between a row of increase and a row with no increase. Row 2 is an increased row. Row 3 will not be an increased row. Row 4 will be an increased row. Then row 5 will not be an increased row. So basically, we're going to increase in the even rows and work the odd rows without increasing. So I'm just getting to the next stitch marker. I'll take out the stitch marker, and into that stitch I'll place 1 double crochet, then put the stitch marker back, and then when I get to the second stitch marker I'll do the same thing, and I'll continue with 1 double crochet up to the end of row 3. So work your row 3 with no increase, but then remember to mark the stitches that are already marked, and I'll meet you at the end of row 3. I'm in the last stitch of row 3, and I'm just going to place the last double crochet, then slip stitch on top of the chain 2. So right there, do the slip stitch, then we're going to chain 2 and begin row 4. Chain 2, turn, then we're going to begin in the second stitch and place a double crochet into that second stitch. Then we're going to place one double crochet, we're going to place 1 double crochet into each of the other stitches till we get to the stitch marker, and because this is an even row, we're going to increase at the stitch marker. So we get to the stitch marker, take it out and place 3 double crochets into that stitch. So 1, then 2, then 3. Get the stitch marker and mark the second stitch at that point of increase or the middle stitch. Then continue to the next stitch marker with 1 double crochet into every stitch. Once you get to the stitch marker, do the increase. Then continue with 1 double crochet to the end of the row. I'm at the second stitch marker, so I'll just get it out, and into that stitch I'll place my 3 double crochets. So yarn over and do 1 double crochet, then the second double crochet and the third double crochet. Then get the stitch marker and mark the second stitch at the point of increase, and now continue with 1 double crochet to the end. I'm doing the slip stitch at the end of row 4. Then I'll chain 2, and then I'll turn to begin row 5. So now from here you already know how to increase. So row 5 will have no increase, row 6 will have an increase, and you're just going to keep on increasing till you get your hip measurement. So let me show you how to take that measurement. So as you can see, we're going to measure from 1 stitch marker to the next, and when we measure this without stretching, we are getting to 14 multiplied by 2, that is 28. When we stretch, we get to 17. 17 multiplied by 2, that's 34. And I'm going to increase till I get to 22.5 when I stretch slightly, because my hip measurement is 45, and 45 divided by 2 is 22.5. So I'll just keep increasing in alternate rows. I've just increased in row 4, so I'll work row 5 with no increase, then row 6 with an increase, and so on. So let me keep going with my increases, and then I'll be back once I get my hip measurement. Do that, and let's meet back here once you get the hip measurements. Right here, I'm just showing you how far along I am after completing one ball of the yarn that I'm using, and I'm at a total of 11 rows. I'm working my 11th row right now, and when I measure this, let's see how far I am with the hips. So notice that there's an extension on each of the sides. It's starting to stretch out. Right now I'm at 19 multiplied by 2, that is 38. So it means if your hip measurement is 38 and you're working with the same yarn and the same hook, you're going to stop here. You're not going to increase anymore. Once you get to your hip measurement, you stop increasing. Now that I've not gotten to my hip measurement, I'll just add more yarn and continue increasing until I get to my 22.5, which is 45 inches. This is my skirt after 24 rows, and I've already hit my hip measurement. So that means I've increased for 12 rows as I alternate. So my last increase is in row 24. I'm just counting down to confirm that I'm in the 24th row, and therefore I'm not going to require the stitch markers anymore. So I'll just pull them out and I'll continue working without them. First, let's confirm that hip measurement before we can continue. I'm at 21 without stretching. I've already tried this on, so it's a bit stretchy than it would have been. So I'm at 20, and therefore I'll just give it a little bit of a stretch and it will get me to 22. It's getting to 23. It can go up to 24 actually. So it can fit somebody with a hip measurement of between 40 and 48. Now take out the stitch markers, and now all the rows from this point until you get to a length of 15 inches. I want to work a length of 15 inches before I can do the ruffled part of the skirt, and right now I'm at around 12.5 inches. I'll work a few rows of increases that will get me to 15 inches, and then I'll be back and show you what to do next. I've already chained 2, so I'm going to turn and begin in the second stitch, and now I'll place a double crochet into that stitch. Then I'll place 1 double crochet into every stitch till I get to the end of the row. At the end of the row, I'll chain 2, I'll slip stitch, then chain 2 and turn and keep going. And I'm going to work a total of 30 rows. So I already have 24. This is my 25th. I'll work the 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th and the 30th row. And once I get to the 30th row, I'll be back so that we can do the next part of the skirt. So do an extension until you get to the length that you want. It doesn't have to be 15. It could be 18. It could be 20. Depends with the length of the skirt that you want. After my 30 rows, this is what I have, and this is what gets me to 15 inches. It's not exactly 15. It's around 14 point something. If I pull it slightly below, it will be 15, and I've already tried it on and it fits. You need to make sure that you've gotten to a length that covers your bum completely before you can start working on the ruffles, because you don't want something that is too short. If you want it longer, then continue working the rows. Now we're going to chain 2. Actually, we're going to chain 3. To work this row, we're going to start with a chain of 3, because that will act, the chain 2 will act as a double crochet. Then the third chain will be a chain in between. So chain 3 and turn, and we're going to place a double crochet into that same stitch where the chain 3 is. Then chain 1, go to the second stitch and do a double crochet, then chain 1, go back into that second stitch again and do another double crochet. So it's like we are creating a V stitch. So chain 1, go into that stitch, do a double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet, and we're going to do a cluster of 5. So chain 1, another double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet into the same stitch. Those are 4 stitches. Chain 1, go into the 5th stitch, do a double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet. So after you get the 5 stitches, or the V stitches into the 5 stitches, we're going to work into the 6th stitch, and we're going to chain 1, go into the 6th stitch, place 1 double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet, then we're going to chain 1 and do a third double crochet into the same stitch. So the 6th stitch gets 3 double crochets with a chain in between. Then we're going to work another cluster of 5 V stitches. So double crochet, chain 1, skip into the next stitch, do a double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet into the same stitch, chain 1, go into the next stitch, do a double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet into the next stitch, and count 5 stitches. Once you get the 5 stitches, you're going to do a 6th stitch differently. But there has to be a chain 1 between each of the double crochets. So now I'm in the 6th stitch. I'll do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, a third double crochet. Then we're going to do 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then into the 6th, we're going to do the 3 double crochets. So chain 1, start in the first double crochet, do a double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet into the same stitch. Then chain 1 into the second double crochet. We're going to do a double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet. That's the second double crochet. Chain 1 into the third double crochet, do a double crochet, chain 1, a second double crochet. Those are 3. Then chain 1 and move into the 4th one and do the same thing. So chain 1, do a double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet into the 4th stitch. That's the 4th. 2 double crochets separated by a chain 1. Chain 1 into the 5th, do a double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet. And now we get into the 6th. So chain 1 into the 6th stitch. We're going to work differently. We're going to place 3 of them, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, a third double crochet. Now this is a pattern that we're going to repeat to the end. This is my row 31. It could be whatever number, so go all the way around repeating that pattern, and I'll meet you at the end. I'm coming to the end of that row, and I'm just placing the double crochets separated by chain. So making sure that I have 2 double crochets into every stitch and 3 double crochets in every 6th stitch. Then at the end, I've chained 1. I'll do a double crochet into that last stitch, chain 1, and then slip stitch on top of the chain 2 from the beginning. There were 3 chains, so you go into the second one. So count 1 and 2 and do a slip stitch into the second one. That's the end of that row. Chain 3 and turn. We're going to call this row 2 of the ruffled part. So chain 3 and turn. Before we can continue to the second row, this is what we have. We've created the ruffles, as you can see. And our ruffles are in the mesh, using the mesh stitch. That is why we have in chains in between. So now we're beginning row 2 of the ruffled part of the skirt. And now we're just going to place 1 double crochet into each of the double crochets from the previous row. So the next double crochet gets a double crochet, chain 1, go into the next double crochet and place a double crochet, just 1 double crochet, chain 1, 1 double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, a double crochet into the next double crochet. And now this is very simple. We're just placing 1 double crochet onto the previous double crochets and making sure that the double crochets are separated by 1 chain. So keep going like this, and I'll meet you at the end of row 2 of the ruffled part of the skirt. I'm coming to the end of row 2, just doing the double crochets and the chains in between. I'm in the last double crochet, so I'll do the double crochet, chain 1 and slip stitch on top of chain 2. I'll count 2 chains from below and then slip stitch into the second one to complete that row. Then we're going to chain 3 and turn to begin row 3. Again, we're going to work row 3 just like we've done row 2, just 1 double crochet on top of the previous double crochet, chain 1, double crochet next, chain 1, double crochet, and keep going to the end. So I'll repeat these rows for a total of 6 rows. Right now I'm in row 3, so I'll do row 3, 4, 5 and 6, and I'll come back once I'm done with the 6 rows. I'm coming to the end of the 6th row and I'm just doing the double crochets and the chains in between until I get to the end. Chain 1 at the end and slip stitch on top of the chain 2. Then chain 1. Get your pair of scissors and cut off the yarn. We're going to leave an end that we're going to weave in. Pull the yarn through and fasten. Then we're going to get the darning needle. If you want the ruffled part longer, you're going to do more rows. You can do 10, 15 and so on. It's all up to you. So I've just done 6 rows and now I'm just going to weave in that end, just sewing it inside my work to ensure that it doesn't show at any point, because we don't want to cut at the end and then it unravels. You have to hide that end, and that is what I'm doing. Then I'll go ahead and hide any other ends that might be visible in the skirt, and after that I'll be done with the skirt. I'm done with the skirt, and this right here is what I have. You might want to do a drawstring to attach onto the waistband so that it draws the waist together. So what you do is you start with a slip knot and then you're just going to do chains. You can do between 200 and 250 chains. So just go on, make your chain as long as you want it to be, and then after that you're going to attach it onto the waistband. To attach the drawstring, you get the darning needle and put the chain that you've done through. Then you're going to get the middle part of the front part of the skirt and you just go through the rows on top, at the top, and just weave in the strap all the way around the skirt. As you can see, I've just done a small short strap, so I'll do this later. So this is how you need to attach it, and then after that you're done. Our work is done here. The skirt is beautifully done. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the tutorial. If you've enjoyed the tutorial, kindly leave a like, a comment, share, subscribe. And if you get to recreate these, please tag me on my social media pages. I'll be reposting your work. See you in the next one.